All right, welcome back here to the Xfinity Sports Report, your Colorado High School connection. Brian Roth back with you. We just saw all the highlights from 4A and 5A. We're going to break it all down now here on set. Thomas Trotman pens that Ball Fever column on CHSAA.com. And then, of course, Kyle Newman from the Colorado Sports Network making his debut appearance on the show. Great to have you guys. And Kyle, tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us a little bit about the Colorado Sports Network.
Yeah, Brian, thanks for having me on. ColoradoSportsNetwork.com, real multimedia focused high school sports website. Lots of features, photo galleries, video features, all that kind of stuff. Heavy social media engagement. We're on Twitter at CO Sports Network. I'm a Colorado native from Centennial, went to Arapahoe, so really invested in high school sports around here. And we're all over the girls and guys basketball playoffs. We got coverage up on ColoradoSportsNetwork.com right now if you want to go check it out.
Yeah, it's a great website. If you have not been there, check it out if you're a fan of high school sports, which obviously you are if you're watching this program. All right, Thomas, let's start with you, our returning champion on the program. And let's start with 4A, and I think the big story coming out of the grade 8 this past weekend. The number 1 seed going down is Lewis Palmer loses to Vista Ridge.
Yeah, number 1 seed going down, as you mentioned. Hard to beat a team 3 times in one season, and that's what Lewis Palmer was asked to do, already facing Vista Ridge twice in league play. Hunter Maldonado is the lead guy there for Vista Ridge and looked like he really stepped up last night.
Yeah, Hunter Maldonado with 29 points in that game. Of course, he leads them 22 points per contest. So Vista Ridge now making their first ever appearance into the Final Four. Congratulations there to the Wolves. Remember, they had a very good football season here this past fall as well. They will take on Pueblo West. It's a Pueblo West team led by David Semental, and that's a very good basketball team as well. So those two teams are going to hook up in one of the 4A state semifinals. All right, let's get to the other matchup. It'll be Longmont taking on Valor Christian. It's a Valor Christian team, Kyle, that, boy, they got everything they wanted and more from Windsor on Saturday.
Yeah, and head coach Troy Packner is doing a great job in his first season at the helm there at Valor. And Jalen Sanders, I mean, I've seen Valor play a couple times. Sanders each time has stood out to me with his athleticism, his leadership. He had a couple clutch free throws at the end there in the grade 8 game. So they're on to the Final Four, but they're going to have a big task in Longmont. Jessup, of course, he had 19 points in the grade 8.
Yep, no question about that. And, it's a Longmont team, Thomas. We talked about them way back in December when we had them on the program. Lost in the state championship to Air Academy last season. Number 1 ranked team for a lot of the season here this year. Does Longmont have enough to finally finish the job?
Right, we've talked about it a bunch, Kyle and I on his podcast as well, that they're one of those teams playing with that chip on the shoulder a little bit. Undefeated last season all the way until the title game and have that bad taste in their mouth of going undefeated and then losing in the championship. We've joked that they've kept it under the radar, very quiet social media, very quiet on Twitter, and I think they're just kind of quietly marching along, and that's the way Jessup and the crew want it.
Yeah, by the way, and again, we had those highlights for you earlier in the program. What a scene up there at Longmont High School. They sold out their allotment of tickets earlier in the day, had the fire marshal there. There was about 30 or 40 people standing outside the gymnasium, not allowed to come in, and that's what high school basketball is all about. So that's a Longmont team now. They have won 14 consecutive games, and again, their only loss came to the Forward Northeast Warriors back in January. So take a look at the bracket there. Again, there you see it. The 4 o'clock game coming up on Friday, Pueblo West at 23-3, taking on Vista Ridge at 20-6, and then at 5:30 Friday night from Boulder, it'll be Longmont taking on Valor Christian. A couple of heavyweights set to go at it there. All right, now to Class 5A, and it's always fun when you get down to the Denver Coliseum for the grade 8 Saturday. That's what we had here just yesterday. And let's start first with Cherry Creek. They were taking on Chatfield, a game that would go to overtime. Chatfield would get the win, but guys, be remiss not to mention Will Heffron. Man, he was terrific. Kyle, he had 38 points in that game.
Yeah, and 15 of 24 shooting. Just an incredible night. I mean, I'd seen him light it up a couple times during the regular season, but to shoot it well in the Coliseum, as we were talking about before the show, where it's kind of a big backdrop there, your depth perception might be a little off. He didn't show any of that, and obviously when he came out of the game, the tide kind of turned against Cherry Creek there, and it goes to show you can't just have one sharpshooter in this tournament. I mean, all these other teams who dominated in their grade 8 matchups like Overland, so deep, and Will Halfon had a great night, but some other guys need to step up in order for them to get that W.
Yeah, Halfon started the game off with a 3, hit a fadeaway 3 to end the first period, and you kind of knew it'd be one of those nights. But Chatfield, what can you say about Chatfield, Thomas? I mean, it's a team that won that Jefferson County League, a team that, boy, needed everything and got it from Cherry Creek.
Yes, all they could ask for from Cherry Creek. What changed the game for me was the third quarter pressure that Chatfield decided to put on. They went to their full court press third quarter and totally changed the pace of the game. It was kind of being played at Creek's pace before they made that defensive change, and it ended up paying off.
So Chatfield's going to get Overland in the Final Four, and Kyle, it's an Overland team. Saw them stumble a little bit earlier in the season. Lost to Regis, lost to Grandview, which I know surprised a lot of folks, and then lost to Eagle Crest as well without Deron Davis. But this looks like a team, Danny Fisher has them playing their best basketball heading into March.
Yeah, and I think some people kind of started sleeping on Overland after they stumbled a little bit. They proved to be mortal during the regular season, but this team, they've come together. They did it last season. They got a ton of pieces back from that. I mean, Reggie Gibson, obviously, Deron Davis, the best recruit in the state. And they go by a mantra of OVE, Overland versus everybody, because they feel that, anti-Overland sentiment because they won the title last year. And wow, they've been dominant so far in the playoffs.
Yeah, they certainly have. And I think we started to see it a little bit late in the year. They went into Eagle Crest and just destroyed the Raptors on their home courts. And going into the tournament, I don't know, Thomas, I mean, going into this tournament, you looked back a week and a half ago, Overland was kind of that team. I think a lot of folks are like, they look like they might be turning it on.
They're gaining momentum for sure. One little tidbit that slipped past a lot of folks is they went to Nebraska late in the season for one more out-of-state trip and knocked off Omaha South, I believe it was, which is the undefeated #1 team in Nebraska. So we didn't hear a lot about that, but that even increased their momentum going towards the playoff and that confidence I think that they needed to have.
Yep, certainly a big win on the road, and it's rare to see teams go out of state in the month of February. Usually that's right around the holiday portions of the schedule. All right. How about Rangeview? And what a season for Sean Palmer's team. They were terrific on Saturday. And Kyle, I think a lot of us felt Cherokee Trail would be a very dangerous team coming to the grade 8, playing as well as anybody. But I'll tell you what, Rangeview handled them pretty well. Yeah,
I mean, David Thornton dropped 26 for the Cougars, but Rangeview just a complete team effort, 5 guys scoring in double figures. And it's kind of been the story all season long. And we talked about Longmont having a chip on their shoulder. This Rangeview team definitely has a chip on their shoulder. 26-0, East Metro League champs. It doesn't matter, though. There's so much doubt because of the league they play in. And I see it on Twitter with guys chattering back and forth to the Rangeview players. No one believes in this team, and they love that. They relish that.
Yeah, and again, Thomas, needed to pull out a last-second win at home against Arvada West. That kind of gave them a close game that they really hadn't had, as Kyle referenced, in that East Metro League where they dominated.
Yeah, late free throw, I believe, that got that W versus Dallas Walton and the Wildcats, who were playing tough and improving towards the end of the season. So that close game might have prepped them for yesterday at the grade 8 just a bit.
All right, then Eagle Crest, they got the win over Regis. Tell me your thoughts on that game, Thomas.
Extremely impressed with Colby Ross yesterday.
Yeah.
That sounds a little weird because he played probably the lowest minutes he's played all season because of 4 fouls. But he came back in the start of the fourth quarter, made the very first basket of the quarter, and controlled the tempo and pace of that fourth quarter. Kid could have got frustrated sitting with 4 fouls, sitting the majority of the game, but he came back in as a true leader and controlled that entire fourth quarter.
Yeah, God, I know you've seen Colby Ross all season long. The kid's a stud, isn't he?
Yeah, I've checked him out in preseason practice, seen him play throughout the year. We've got some pieces up on him on ColoradoSportsNetwork.com. But what he's improved most in, Coach Olander said, is his leadership. And Thomas just mentioned it. He could have gone on the bench and pouted, but when he came back in, he made a difference. But also it's the Eagle Crest supporting cast. I mean, Victor Garns, Akina Ozor, Elijah Wilson, Nate Bokel down low. This is a very well-rounded Eagle Crest team, and it's not just the Colby Ross show, as many may believe.
Yeah, and Eagle Crest making their 3rd appearance in the last 4 years up in Boulder in the Final Four, of course, behind Trayshawn Wilford, able to take down that that 2013 state championship. And what John Olander has done, guys, there at Eagle Crest High School is astounding. He is, I think, an underrated coach, although I think a lot of folks around the state certainly appreciate what John has been able to do. Take a look at the bracket there, and there you see the Final Four at 7 o'clock on Friday night. Rangeview, Eagle Crest, then the final game. It'll be Chatfield and Overland. All right, guys, let's break down the two semifinal games. We start with the first one, Kyle. Rangeview, Eagle Crest, a couple of Aurora teams, by the way, three of the four teams remaining from Aurora. A-Town got to represent. Your thoughts on that one? A couple of teams that, although they did not play this year, know each other well.
Yeah, well, going off that, Aurora is definitely the most ballness city in the state of Colorado.
Absolutely.
And we've talked about that on the podcast before for the Colorado Sports Network. But in this one, I think I like the Raiders. I mean, I think they're going to go to 27-0, set up a showdown versus Overland in the final. And I just think their balance is going to be too much. And like I was saying, their fire, that chip on the shoulder, and everyone doubting them. Everyone outside their program, and it's just all it's done is brought them closer together.
Yep, I guess you could say they do kind of have a star player in Tyree Randall, but really it's more of a collection of guys there at Rangeview, which makes them fun to watch. It I think it makes them hard to defend. How about the other 5A semifinal? Thomas, take a crack at that one again. That's a Chatfield team that I don't think a lot of folks really give a ton of respect to the Jefferson County League. Now, Chatfield did go through undefeated at 14-0. Do they have a shot against the defending champs?
I think they do. Might be a little closer than folks think because of the pressure that Chatfield can put on the ball, and then they'll pack it in defensively against Duran, force Overland to try to shoot from the outside. Tough task. I think Duran has gotten a little bit of criticism that we've been seeing on Twitter and through some of the social media of him not dominating the state the way he should and his stats not being the 2010 every single game. Well, he brought that out yesterday. Obviously, 20-plus points, double-double, hit 2 3-pointers, a 4-point play yesterday. So I don't see the momentum of the Trailblazers being stopped, but Chatfield will make it tough.
All right, with that, give us state championship predictions. You mentioned you don't see Overland maybe being stopped. You like the Blazers?
I'm sticking with Overland. Kyle and I have a friendly bet going on, and our brackets posted on the wall. So I'm sticking with the Trailblazers.
All right. What about you, Kyle?
I got Rangeview in overtime, dramatic thriller over the Blazers. I think Tyree Randall's going to have a big night, but Elijah Reed, he's been huge down the post, even though he's not that tall relative to Duran Davis. But I think they got the depth and the drive to take it home.
All right. And I got my popcorn ready. I'm going to be watching it this weekend. I'm not going to make a prediction. I just hope for good games, and I hope it's an exciting tournament coming up. All right, gentlemen, always appreciate your help, and we'll do it again shortly.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, Kyle Newman, Colorado Sports Network. Thomas Trotman pens that ball fever column for CHSAA.com. All right, don't go anywhere. We'll wrap up the show following this here on the Xfinity Sports Report.